What's going on, guys? Before we get into the video, I just want to remind you all that I did just recently drop merch and we have some pretty awesome designs, so make sure you check it out. Link will be in the description, but let's go ahead and get into the video. What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today I am bringing you an updated Tearlament deck profile as well as a combo tutorial at the end, so make sure you guys stick around for that. Post Darkwing Blast, let's go ahead and show you guys the build. So starting things off, we are maxing out on pretty much all of the Tearlaments. We have 3 copies of Merly, 3 copies of Havness, 3 copies of Shiren, and unfortunately only 2 copies of Rhinoheart. I do want to play a third Rhinoheart, I just don't own one, and for some reason nobody at my locals has it, and I just don't like buying cards online. But I would max out on the Rhinoheart if I could, so I would just be playing 3 of every name, and that's pretty standard. I mean, you can get away with the 2 Rhinoheart, I just personally like the 3. Reason being is because it's actually a card you want to open for the new combo, which, again, stick around to the end and I'm going to show you guys that combo. But that is it for the Tearlament names. Then we have 1 copy of Blazing Cartessia the Virtuous and 1 copy of Albion the Shrouded Dragon. This is for the new Branded in High Spirits combo, which is the combo I'm going to be showcasing at the end. Honestly, a really cool and really powerful combo. I think it's probably the best way to play the deck moving forward. And then we have 1 copy of Sprite Jet. This is just because since Merly is a level 2, we are able to abuse it to go into a small sprite engine using the Jet to search a Smashers, which just equates to another interruption on our opponent's turn. So I think it's really strong just to play the 1. If you saw the YCS Minneapolis that just happened, you'll see that there was a much bigger sprite engine, but that was more of a sprite Tearlament deck. This is closer to pure Tearlament with just the single sprite, so we can get that additional interruption in Smashers. Then we have 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir. If you've watched any of my deck profiles lately, you know that I think this is a mandatory 3 of in pretty much every deck that can play it, which is everything except for Fluanderies. But this card is incredible if, you know, worst case scenario, turn 1, it's an extender. Best case scenario, it's another interruption on your board. And this card can play through so much stuff on your opponent's turn if you're going second. I think it's just an incredible card. Probably one of my favorite cards in the game now. I think it's super strong and definitely play it if you have it. Then we are playing 2 copies of Bestial Magnamut and 1 copy of Bestial Druisworm. This is kind of just like DD Crow. I mean, it is DD Crow, but it puts a body on board as well, and the Magnamut will be able to search the Druisworm, so you can use it, or rather get additional DD Crows later on. I think it's the best hand trap, or the Bestials are the best hand traps in the game right now, because everything has Darks right now, so it's just really good. And that's it for the monsters. Onto the spells, we have a lot of one-ofs. We've got 1 copy of Called by the Grave, 1 copy of Foolish Burial, 1 copy of Galaxy Cyclone. Now, I do want to say that if you don't want to play the Galaxy Cyclone, you can play something like the Tearlament Heartbeat instead. I just don't personally like the Heartbeat because it does nothing if you mill it, whereas if you mill the Galaxy Cyclone, it still becomes an out to oppressive cards like Mystic Mine. So I do think the Galaxy Cyclone is still better than the Tearlament's Heartbeat. The only upside that you have with the Tearlament's Heartbeat is that it is searchable, but I mean, this is a mill deck, so unfortunately you are somewhat luck-based in your strategy, and if you get unlucky and mill the Heartbeat and then your opponent Mystic Mines you, then it's kind of just GG's at that point, so I'd rather play something like the Galaxy Cyclone. But moving on, we have 1 copy of Instant Fusion, 1 copy of Sprite Smashers for the Jet to search, 1 copy of Tearlament Scream. I think Tearlament Scream is an incredible card, but you really don't want it at more than 1. If you mill it, you can search your trap, which is cool. If you open it, you can go ahead and put it on the field and get additional mills anytime something is summoned. I just think it's good utility to have at 1. And then the last one of is our copy of Terraforming. Obviously, we want to be able to search the field spell. Then we have 2 copies of Tearlament Grief. I don't think this needs to be played at 3. It just feels kind of bricky at 3. It is a somewhat better Foolish Burial, because if you have nothing on field, you can summon whatever Tearlament you want to send to the graveyard, and then send that Tearlament to the graveyard with the effect of Grief. Or if you have something on field that you want to swap for another tier, you can do that as well. But I just think that at 3 it's a little too bricky. Then onto the Branded in High Spirits, we have 3 copies of it. This is a card that you absolutely want to open. If you open Branded in High Spirits plus any Tearlament name except Rhinoheart, you end on a bare minimum Roll Kalos and Baron de Flor, which is really cool, and obviously if your mills are better, you can go even further, so that's the combo I'm going to show you guys here after the profile. We have 3 copies of Primeval Planet. This is just a rota for the deck, as well as additional functionality, being able to destroy cards when you fusion on your opponent's turn. We have 3 copies of Super Poly, the best going second card for the Tearlament strategy, just because pretty much every board is setting up something that can be super polyed, so you're able to just clear a board and your opponent can't respond. And then we have 2 copies of the Trap, Tearlaments Sullik. The reason I play 2 is because I partially want to open it, that way the Kit Kalos can search something else, but at the same time I don't want to mill my only 1 and not be able to use the negation effect. So pretty much 1 is for milling and 1 is for actually using, and that is going to be the main deck at 40 cards. I know a lot of Tearlament strategies go above 40, but I want to keep it kind of tight and concise here, just for the maximum amount of consistency. That's it for the main. Let's show you guys the extra. Alright, now for the extra we have 1 copy of Tearlament Kit Kalos, 1 copy of Tearlaments Roll Kalos, and 1 copy of Tearlaments Kaleido Heart. I don't think you need to play any more than just these 3. If you wanted to, you could play a second Kit Kalos just for utility, but I don't think it's necessary. The deck is able to put your Kit Kalos back into your extra deck so frequently and so easily that 1 is definitely more than enough. Then we have our 2 Super Poly targets with the Mud Dragon of the Swamp and the Garura Wings of Resonant Life. Even though these are Super Polys, there are times in your combos where you're going to make them as extenders or as materials. Like, for example, that Branded and High Spirits combo is going to make the Garura, which we will then synchro into the Baron. So not only are we getting the Baron, but we're also getting a draw, which does kind of limit your Super Poly plays, but I mean, again, you can put both of these back with the next card, which is going to be Dragos Depelia. If you are going to be fusion summoning out a Dragos Depelia, you can use the Tearlaments effects to put back either of these as your fusion monster, which works really well. So your Super Poly is never really dead, even if you have to use them as your combo pieces. Then we have our 1 copy of Baron de Flor, again part of the new Branded and High Spirits combo. Onto the XYZs, we are playing 1 copy of Gigantic Sprite. This is how we tutor the Sprite Jet onto the field, and then we're just going to go ahead and link it away after we're done anyways. And then we have our 1 copy of Abyss Dweller. I think that you can potentially play more than just these 2. I know that Time Thief Redoer is very popular, and I really like Time Thief Redoer. I just don't have enough space in the extra deck, so if there's anything in this that you don't like, you could replace it with a Time Thief Redoer and play that alongside these 2. But that's it for the XYZs. Onto the links. We have 1 copy of Dark the Dark Charmer, pretty self-explanatory. 1 copy of IP Masquerena. I think that this is really good for the Topologic play that we have in the extra deck as well, and I'll get to that when we show the Topologic. We have 1 copy of Sprite Sprint. This card is really cool because Merly is a level 2, so you can use this effect to send your Merly to the graveyard and just get an additional fusion. Yes, you need a 2 in order to make it, but sometimes you have the Merly on field and you haven't yet used the graveyard effect, so it comes in clutch. Then we have 2 copies of Sprite Elf. The reason we play 2 copies is for the Sprite Jet combo. We're going to use one of the elves to reborn out our Merly that's in our graveyard. We're going to overlay the Merly and the elf into Gigantic. Gigantic's going to summon the Sprite Jet. Sprite Jet gets us our Smasher. Then what we can do is we can use the Jet and the Gigantic to go into our second Sprite Elf. And then now not only do we have our Smashers live, but our elf can reborn the Merly again on our opponent's turn, which will be able to potentially mill us 3 cards and get us another fusion. So I think that 2 Sprite Elf is pretty mandatory, and the last card in the extra deck is going to be the Topologic Bomber Dragon. I know that a lot of people have cut this recently, but I'm still a huge fan of the utility this card offers. For those of you that don't know, the play is to end on Sprite Elf and IP Masquerena, and you use the effect of Sprite Elf to target your Merly to reborn it. Then you chain your IP Masquerena to link summon. You're going to use the Elf and the IP to go into Topologic. Then you can summon out your Merly to the zone that the Topologic points to, still resolving the effect of your elf that you activated, and that will allow you to use Topologic and Merly. So Merly's going to mill 3 cards, Topologic is going to blow up the board, and then Merly's going to be able to fuse because it was sent to graveyard. So not only do you get both of Merly effects, both the mill and the fusion, but if you milled 3 cards off your Merly that can be used like any of the other Tearlament names, you get even more fusion options, and if your opponent was able to maybe protect their board, or they were able to continue summoning later on, you can always proc the Topologic once more by summoning to its zone, since you are able to summon so many cards to your side of the field during your opponent's turn. That's it for the extra. Let's show you guys that combo. Alright guys, so the way that this combo works is you just need Branded in High Spirits and any Tearlament name. Now typically when I try to do combos for you guys, I put everything we need on top of the deck so I don't have to sit rummaging through the deck, but because the mills have to be randomized to really showcase the potential, I just shuffled up the deck and we're going to show you guys. So you're going to start off by activating your Branded in High Spirits. You have to reveal a monster in your hand. then send a monster or a fusion with 2500 attack or defense to your graveyard, level 8, which happens to be Rolkalos. She's a level 8 with 2500 defense. And then you send the card that you revealed, and then you have to add your copy of Blazing Cartesia, wherever she is. There she is. And then now what gets to happen is, because you sent a Tearlament monster by card effect, you can go ahead and activate the effect of the Tearlament that you sent. In this case, it's going to be the Shiren. We're going to put the Rolkalos and the Shiren back to the bottom of our deck. And this is going to go ahead and summon out our copy of Kitkalos. Now, Kitkalos here has to search for the Rhino Heart unless you opened it. But you do need your Rhino Heart in the hand, so Kitkalos here is going to go ahead and search Rhino Heart. That is why I want to maximize and play 3 Rhino Hearts, because the chance of opening it makes it so that the Kitkalos can search something else like your Scream or your Sullik, which I think is very important. But just to show you guys the most simplistic version of the combo, we're going to go ahead and use it to search our Rhino Heart. Here what we can do is we can summon out our Blazing Cartesia, and now we can do a really interesting chain. We can activate the Kitkalos targeting itself, and because the effect of Kitkalos only targets the card it's sending from field and not the card that it's summoning from hand or grave, we can chain the Cartesia to fuse using the Kitkalos and the Rhino Heart, and this is going to let us go ahead and summon out that Rolkalos that we put back to make the Kitkalos. Now the Kitkalos will resolve as much as possible. Even though it's not able to send itself, it's still going to summon out our Rhino Heart, and since it's able to summon from hand or grave, we can summon the Rhino Heart that we used as the fusion material. So now what we can do is we can use both Rhino Heart and Kitkalos. So however you want to chain block it, the way that I really like to do it is I like to make Rhino Heart chain 1 and Kit chain 2. That way I can see my mills before I decide what to send off the Rhino Heart. So we're going to go ahead and mill 5. Alright, and here we hit the Shiren, but we already used the Shiren, so we really can't do much else. But we still have our Rhino Heart, so we can go ahead and send any of the names we have not used yet, which is Merly or Havness. We're going to go ahead and use the Rhino Heart to send the Havness, and here that will go ahead and activate the Havness effect. So what we can do now with the Havness is we're going to go ahead and fuse. I'm going to go ahead and use herself and the Shiren. Now, if we want to put the Kitkalos back into the extra deck, we can definitely go ahead and do that, but I don't really see a need to do that right now. So we're going to go ahead and put these two back at the bottom of the deck, and this is going to summon out our copy of Garura Wings of Resonance. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and use the Cartesia and the Garura, since Cartesia is a tuner. We can go ahead and Synchro Summon for 10. This is going to put our Baron Floor on the field, and then we can activate our Garura and draw a card. So here we draw the Shiren. Now, what we could do here, because remember, that was a 2-card combo. That was using the High Spirits and the Tearlament Shiren that we opened up. So we still have 3 other cards in hand. If any of those were monsters, we can go ahead and summon this, mill 3 more, maybe get to fuse again. These will turn into a Dweller, and then we end our board on Baron de Floor, Dweller, and Rolkalos. Like, it's really hard to show you guys how much further we can go without the full hand, but I wanted to show you guys the most minimalistic options. Not to mention those Kitkalos mills were kind of bad. If we hit any of our names, we could have potentially also ended on something like a Dragostapelia. So it's really just kind of dependent on what your hand is and what your mills are, but just off the bare minimum, we still end on an Omni Negate and a negate for anything that would summon, plus 4 cards in hand, because we have the 3 original that we started with, and the 1 card we drew off the Garura, so that is going to be the combo. And there you guys have it. That is going to be the post-Darkwing Blast updated Tearlament deck profile and combo tutorial. Just remember, when you are doing that Branded and High Spirits combo, that you can go a lot further than what I showed you. I was just showing you the absolute bare minimum. If your mills are good and if the rest of the cards in your hand are good, you can take that board and elevate it to another level far beyond what you just saw. Again, that is just the bare minimum, and I want to stress that the most, because a lot of people have told me that that combo doesn't really look that threatening, forgetting that you still have 4 other cards in your hand to work with, plus the 5 other cards that you milled, so it can potentially get absolutely insane. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with friends, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon, because for just $1, you can support the channel in a way that I would never be able to tell you how much I fully appreciate. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.